The CEO is 100% the best person to be in front of the camera. That being said, as soon as they press that red button or they press record, it's a completely different medium. Someone doing 80% of your job is 100% freaking awesome.
Today we're talking to Eric, and Eric is a badass person on camera. And the coolest thing about it is he does it for other people who don't like to be on camera, but also he teaches people how to be more comfortable and how to actually get results from being on camera.
Hello, my name is Eric Presnall. I am originally from Sacramento, California. I grew up as an actor, mostly doing Broadway films, mostly doing film and TV, commercials, that whole kind of thing. And an old commercial client of mine had messaged me and said, "Hey, we need some help with communicating to our audience." And I was like, yeah, I'll hop right in. That conversation, that little client just ended up forward fast tracking like 5 years of me working with brands and businesses on more of their internal content. It was just a really cool opportunity. I'm now working with brands that I like to work with and love to work with.
What are the things that we can continue doing to keep that authenticity in this world of AI?
There's a massive turning point right now, and it has been for years, is the
Did you think about that specific niche or service before?
No, never. That's actually a great question because I didn't really know that there were internal videos that you could do. You all I really knew was like there's commercials and ad creatives.
Yeah.
The ultimate would be working for Coca-Cola. Like, come on, like their ad content is off the chain. But
Or Billabong or something.
absolutely, yeah. Well, I mean, it fits the t-shirt. And yeah, I kind of always was like, there's really tons of videos to produce. There's tons of different styles these days. There's a lot of different updates, and especially as we move into the technological advancements, there's a lot more necessary in order to communicate to your audiences. And you have AI avatars coming up, which is like a mixed feeling because I'm a massive tech nerd. So like I am so stoked to see what happens. And then it's going to replace my job for like a lot of the ad creative stuff at the current moment. So that's part of what happens. But I think there'll always be a human element to that. And
Mm.
yeah, so it's interesting how it's evolving.
For sure. Yeah. And I definitely want to get into like what type of content that you help with and why it's so important for businesses. But like maybe for people to understand is like, okay, what is it really that you do and do I need it? What are the kind of like bottlenecks that people experience that they come knocking on your door or they start searching for a service like what you do, like a face of the company or even like the production of that kind of content, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. At the end of the day, the people that end up coming to search for someone like myself, I think they first and foremost don't know that my service really exists because you can get a spokesperson or a video presenter or an actor elsewhere. You go through a talent agency or you go through a Fiverr or marketplace that was currently on. So those are like the main ways, but more often than not, a lot of them will hire an ad creative or a video production house because they need video content. Those are the people that know video content is working. They know that it is how we engage with, not just ad content, but just in general. It's how we take in information as a society. And so the businesses that are moving video forward, they tend to come in and say, "Whoa, this is exactly what we need." A lot of them try video content themselves. They try to outsource it when they realize that they're not really that cut out for video content or being on camera, which is 70% of CEOs. So they're definitely not alone when it comes to that. Um, and yeah, I think it's this really cool point where they realize that video content is not only important in your business and especially to communicate with your audiences, but it's also really helpful in all aspects of business development. It helps in the sales funnels, it helps in marketing, it helps in support, it helps in operations. Like video content is something you can create and change over time, but it is there for you across all of your business development. It's not just to use once, it's to use elongated.
And what are then some of like the things that businesses tend to do wrong when they try to figure this out before even approaching a service to help them out with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. They tend to try a facet of different things. If they wanna try it themselves because they wanna be the face of the brand or they wanna develop that personal brand, it usually comes much later when they get the confidence to do so. The moment they hop in front of a camera, there's this, like, freeze up that tends to happen where everybody goes, "Oh, I didn't like that take," or, I don't like the way I'm looking," or, I don't like this pink in my shirt right here." It's like the most bizarre reasons
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we all put on ourselves, and me too. I definitely do that all the time, and it's very valid because it's a human emotion. It's we feel that way. It's very standard, and it's very, very, very normal. But when they try to do it themselves, it ends up really kind of internalizing the "what will they think of me? How will my audience react?" Not even audience, just family members, friends, deep-rooted psychological things from high school where you're like, "What if that bully sees me?" And it's a lot of things that you're like, "What if, what if, what if, what if?" And at the end of the day, you just gotta hit record and you gotta fail a lot. You have to be very vulnerable and just put yourself out there. You know, if you end up cursing, if you end up moving off camera, if your lighting's over the area, the beauty of recording that I always love is you can always delete it. And that's,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, the ones that you don't delete are and end up being the ones that people appreciate more because it solidifies that you're a real human, that
Mhm.
you mess up, and that is actually turning out to be the better video content nowadays.
Yeah, the more authentic stuff. I do notice that with a lot of our the clients that we work with, like they look at being on camera as like you got it or you don't.
Yeah. Mhm.
But the reality is it's a skill like anything else.
Still.
And it takes so many takes and tries and effort to get to that point. Like I I I tell people that they need to practice, and I'm trying to do it myself, and I'm like going through the same exact thing. That's why like even podcasting is more comfortable because like you're having a conversation and it feels way better. And that's also usually what I recommend people doing first, right?
Yeah. That's a good question though, because you have a great service where you're putting out tons of long form and tons of short form, but it's conditioned on the fact of how much people can actually do the content.
Yeah.
And so you do have batch recording. People can, that you encourage them to do it all at once, but there's a training aspect to get up to that area. So I guess the question for you is how often do you see people want to do it themselves and then end up kind of outsourcing it or going elsewhere or kind of finding other solutions?
Yeah, we noticed that like, oh, we want to get the ball running, or like going at it immediately with recording content, and then realize that the client is actually not that comfortable on camera, and it takes a few extra weeks, if not longer, to really get that that right take. So one thing that I noticed a lot with the clients that we worked with, and depending on the scale of the business, and especially B2B, is that ideally you have the founders and the owners of the business doing the videos, right? Because that builds
Mm,
that trust, and you want to attract customers like that. But so often they don't want to do it, so they try and hire, or they actually use their marketing department to do it. But then they also like got the job not thinking that they have to get on camera. Um, so where do you see that going? Like, what's the best approach for them? Is it best to push your founder and your owner to do it? Could that hurt? Like, this is like an internal question, right?
yeah.
Well, how do you see that going?
That's kind of one of the biggest questions that people tend to think when it comes to video content is like, especially for what I do is hopping into businesses and kind of you're like outsourcing thought leadership, right? When it comes down to it, the CEO is 100% the best person to be in front of the camera. I'll be the first person to say that because they know the content. They're generally speaking, they know the content. They're informed about the subject matter, the industry itself. They're the first person to have confidence when it comes to it. Um, and yet, that being said, as soon as they press that they see that red button or they press record, it's a completely different medium. Like you can get a CEO talking all day about a specific subject, but as soon as it's on camera, It's like you said, it's a whole different skill to learn. It's as if you put them in front of a massive audience, public speaking itself is very hard, and it's not normal by any means. Um, so yeah, the CEO is 100% the best person to do so. When that doesn't work, the next best thing is someone internal. It's someone that actually knows your brand extremely well, that understands the content that you're doing. And that's a reason why they have we follow in something called They Ask You Answer, which is by Marcus Sheridan. It's an awesome book just about content marketing in general. And he utilizes team members in order to create content. So you'll have your sales representatives or your support team people. Everyone's committed to creating 1 to 2 blogs per month. So you get not only awesome content, but it's relevant to their own kind of alleyway, right? Their own zone of genius. And then at that point, the content manager, the one overseeing all of that, is can now take all of that information and then mold it into SEO optimized blog content, keywords, thought leadership space. There's an added element nowadays where it's the communication aspect is okay, how do we actually present this to our public? And often than not, it is the CEO. The CEO doesn't work. It's that internal person, but the content marketer usually doesn't want to be on camera. They're writers. The CMO doesn't want to be on camera. Even marketing coordinators or assistants, like they don't have that confidence. So what we're seeing now is a really beautiful wave of not necessarily outsourcing, but hiring internal, which takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort to find the right people who are intrinsically motivated about your brand and who actually understand it enough to hire some people inside to be talent. One of the first notions of that I saw that was just probably one of the best is Jamal from HubSpot. He is an absolute legend. He not only uh, knows about the platform super well, but he communicates extremely effectively. And his video content setup, he specializes in lighting as well. Like he is just awesome when it comes to setting up the tone for the on branded content. And so following along with that is you're now finding not just one specific person who's being a part of these brands, but you have multiple different people popping up in various areas. Now you have 2 or 3 different people who are a part of these brands that are now one's for podcasting, one's for your explainers, one's completely dedicated to your support teams. And so it's this like massive turn where usually these brands would seek out people to like actors to hire, And now we're finding the opposite is we're finding team members who are intrinsically motivated to be a part of the brands, and they're reaching out to say, "Hey, I wanna help you out with this content." So for me, that's the really exciting part when it comes to just effective video communication.
Yeah, I've have seen it in like especially bigger businesses that can afford it, of course, to have a
Yep.
dedicated person like that. What I'm also seeing is that they trying to look for influencers. So I think what you just explained is more like the UCG. So you basically have anyone almost doing the thing that is just good at the job, such as yourself. But then there's also another aspect where you hire freelancers, right? Like obviously we know sponsorships where you just have an influencer do it, but more and more you also see that they start partnerships around that. Like what are some of the biggest examples around that, or like what is your thoughts on, like, internal hiring versus an influencer?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, generally speaking, when you internal hire, which is, that next rung underneath the CEO doing it, is they're already a part of the team members. So it's generally speaking, they know about the product or service and they're kind of informed on it. Whereas you go deeper on the outsource, and traditionally these UGC or user generated content or influencers or what we do at Video Rep is kind of like providing kind of a backwards approach to it. You're finding that there's a disassociation from the brand, so the further away that you get from it. And so what we're trying to do is fill that gap of actually finding video presenters who are not only good at what they do, but we're actually asking them, "What brands do you wanna work with?" And then as the company, we're reaching out on behalf of those video presenters to say,
Mm.
"Hey, We've got someone who's awesome, really interested in Adidas or, Google or whatever. And now we have motivation to say, this guy really wants to work with you, or this girl really wants to work with you. Here's a sample. What do you think? And we found out more often than not that these people are like, whoa, didn't even know that this existed, especially for the higher brands. This is quite normal. But for like those medium, the SMBs, they go, this is exactly what we've been looking for because the CEO over here does not want to be on camera. So this is kind of a perfect location. The
That's pretty cool.
UGC, yeah, and the UGC area of it all is I'm seeing kind of 2 things here. I'm seeing, like, when it's a UGC, it's just an actor who's for hire, who does a good job, but traditionally, about half of those UGCs that they hire are they don't even use the product at all. They're actors. They're just hired to, "Hey, I've used this face cream. Check it out," you know? And it kind of puts this bad taste in the mouth of people who actually are case studies and who are testimonials. Whereas the influencers themselves, they're purely banking off of the fact that they have an audience that
Mm,
is of a similar realm. So there's pros and cons, I think, to each, but it's definitely on the lower tier versus hiring internally or the CEO itself.
okay. And before I want to ask a question about um like how you transfer that knowledge over once you have someone else then the thought leader. But like I definitely want to get into like how people can get more comfortable on camera, and also like what is like the most effective content for B2B businesses.
Yeah.
So what we struggle with, because what we do is also we try to turn someone's knowledge into a video, right? And
Mm,
we're helping them with script writing, because, and I believe you guys do that as well,
mm,
because often it's just like they know what to talk about, but they don't know how to do it effectively.
mm.
How do you transfer that knowledge over as effectively as possible? And as like the biggest question is like how can that be done authentically, especially if someone else is going to present it?
The transfer of knowledge of thought leadership is by far one of the hardest things to accomplish when it comes to video content. And it's not something that can easily be done. Fortunately, you have a lot of AI technology assisting in that, where you can now compile your thought list, your thought leadership position, your personal opinions, your research on specific topics, and you can kind of feed that into your own area. But there's still a high level of professional experience that a lot of these businesses are finding difficult to transfer. So, for example, Peter, one of your clients, had hit me up and said, "Hey, we want to actually move this thing past what I can actually do in front of the camera because it's taking up a lot of time and space and energy. How do you feel about coming in and doing some video content?" And Peter is one of those members who has such a strong content creation system behind him that the processes are all set up in place where me coming in as a video content specialist without actually the knowledge of being the thought leader in the space proved to be really difficult to actually transfer that over. Because he's like, I want to find a video presenter who um, can talk about, IT infrastructure in such a dynamic way and present well on camera. And there's really one person who can do that, and it's Peter. There's a reason why he has this epic, kind of following, and why a lot of his business comes from YouTube is because he works really hard at his thought leadership and his professional experience on the brand. And that's something that's really hard to transfer that it takes time and energy to pass that off to video presenters.
Yeah. So how can companies then scale? Even like if they have someone, but they want to do more,
Yeah.
what is like the best system that you experienced to transfer that knowledge?
Yeah, one of the best systems so far that I've found to transfer thought leadership, or at least the best attempt at it, is using Claude. Specifically, Claude's writing materials tends to be, generally speaking, a lot higher quality. You can adjust for tone and style, but it still has a real human element in its responses. And moreover, the project section of it has been really helpful to kind of really thoughtfully organize it down. If you use projects well enough, you have to like really feed it a lot of content. So what I did was I asked Claude, "Hey, give me 50 massive questions about my experience in video production and video presenting specifically. Give me 50 more questions about my life story. Give me 50 more questions about," and I just kind of like had it just interview me. And what I did was I left a massive voice note. I think I had 2 sessions of about 2.5 hours each. So
Wow.
I just pumped it full of content. But the difference that the content made in understanding my background after I fed that into Claude projects and saying, "Hey, here's all my background, here's the transcripts on," and I kind of organized it of like, here's the question, here's my answer. I just spent a lot of time making sure that that was there, and but the actual content that it came and produced was significantly better, if not
Mhm.
the best content that it was in my own tone of voice and style.
Yeah. Yeah, we use Claude as well, and I find it a way better tool for creative uses,
Mm,
and especially this. And what I do tell people all the time is like, if when you use AI, provide it as much context as possible. And so I also learn, and this is a really good tip. Claude is perfectly integrated with Google Documents, and I just dump crazy amounts of information into Google Documents. The thing is so that sometimes I put so much into it that Claude can't handle it, because it's too much. Like we're talking about like dozens and dozens of pages or hundreds of thousands of words. So I have to use Notebook LM to condense it and then feed it to Claude from there, because Claude is always better than Gemini. Um, but so going back to like what people can do best to do that knowledge transfer is just providing as much context as possible, basically. And like I from the small details of like anecdotes of their life and their experience with clients or product to the actual practical things. Um, it should all be fed into a project or into a document, even so that anyone can refer to it, or even the best thing, AI, because it's faster.
exactly right, and using that project to to still enhance it and to still kind of, make sure that it's fed the right information, that the most
Yeah.
accurate information of your opinions even goes significantly farther than, just you asking, "Hey, what are the top 10 best video production hacks of all time?" Like, it's your opinion plus, the data itself.
And the experience you have, yeah.
Exactly.
And so what is like the type of content that companies should do? Because like before we you go and hire someone, like they need to understand what works well, right? So what type of content is best for a B2B company?
There's something that we tend to actually kind of I personally utilize when it comes to, like, a top 10. There's a top 10 kind of essential video list that includes things like your explainer videos, your testimonial videos, case studies, ad content, just kind of the things that really all brands and businesses should be doing, and I'll be sure to hand this over afterwards so you guys can check it out. But I also have a secret list.
Mhm.
And this is like the list of things that enhance your growth that really kind of they fall into more of a use case where specific businesses tend to use it better than others. For example, let's say high ticket B2B where you want to get them on a call, right? A lot of the book a call funnels as you do, you'll have ad content, you'll filter that down to a VSL, and you'll hopefully, get that to a form where they booked a call and awesome, we'll see you on the call. What happens though is a lot of these people tend to not show up. And so by adding an extra video layer, again, can be automated, but it is video content and it's personal, you increase your show up rate by doing so. So we add what's called a thank you slash next steps personal video after the book a call, which reminds them, hey, by the way, just so you know, this is what you can expect on the call. We're really excited about it. This is, kind of the thing. These are the things to expect, and here's what you need to prepare for it. Just in case you need to show up. Here's A, B, and C of what we expect.
Mhm.
Well, we go a step further, and there's another secret one called a top 10 FAQ, or what is called essentially the 80% video, and they ask you answer. And this one says on that next steps call, you say, "Hey, by the way, before our meeting, we've actually created a frequently asked question video. I'm going to paste it right below this one. If you can, what we ask you is just to make sure that you watch that video alone before the video, because it'll answer all of your most frequently asked questions, the ones we always get. And then after you do that, we can get to the nitty gritty on the actual call. The show up rate increases, but now you're getting people intrinsically motivated because they've now learned about it, that the ones who do show up are more likely to buy your specific
Yeah.
product or service.
Also qualifies them, right? Because you're trying to insinuate like, is this the right thing for you? Like, should you be on this call at all? And it helps you qualify the prospects.
Exactly
Okay.
right.
So
Yeah.
that's 2 so far. Um, and that's usually like very direct content because the way I look at video content in the B2B world is like you have direct ROI content, meaning that somebody watches a video online, social media, YouTube, whatever it is, and they book a call directly. But you also have a lot of the indirect stuff. And I would even say this is way more common where these are the type of videos that people get familiar with you over time is like realize like, oh, this dude is the right guy. I need to listen to him more. Is the podcast that you listen to like what Daniel Priestley says is like the 4-7-11 rule, like the 7 hours of time you need to spend with someone on average to before you buy. Right.
Mhm.
So do you have some examples around that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways that you can use video into that. What we found is the retention at that stage where you're just kind of understanding to know the people. And I think Daniel Priestley is an excellent example of this. Is you have little spots where you're trying to pick up excellent educative content, right? So another one in that secret list there that a lot of businesses don't take in mind advantage of is a newsletter video. It's actually putting, even if it's short and sweet, right at the top. 65% of us prefer to watch video content over reading. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have both, especially when it comes to your newsletter, because even if it's just you giving a breakdown of everything that you're highlighting in that newsletter, or even if it's a simple done from your side view, kind of a one off, it can be a selfie video, but it's just giving a little bit more personal touch to laying out the information that's below. And that seems to go a long ways. Uh, there's other ones where you can do like a mini course, just something super free, super easy, but still gives them plenty of value over, I guess, that next step. And then I guess kind of the last sample that I'll share from that is the category comparison. So it's essentially you calling out objectively who your competitors are, and objectively answering it, saying we are not a good fit because of this, this, and this.
Yeah. And this is what they do. This is what we do.
Exactly. And if
I've
you're
seen
looking
this
for,
so often recently. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's Gary V is one of them, but Marcus Sheridan does talk about it in the Ask You Answer. Whereas like the ones who are gonna be winning are the ones who are objectively calling it out and giving away all of their free stuff, because they're gonna realize that it's so hard to do and people don't have the attention spans to facilitate that growth. So they'll end up hiring you anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, like what he talks about is that a lot of the businesses don't want to talk about competitors because they're scared that they will go over there. But in reality, people are gonna be searching anyway. So why not be transparent about it and own up to it? Um, I love that book. Like he was really good. Also, what I love about his book and his content is that he keeps it up to date because the book
Mm,
itself is quite outdated, the original, like 10-15 years ago, where he talks about blog posts. Then he updates it for video, and how now he's updating it for AI.
yeah. It's
Um,
crazy, isn't it? Like,
so it's a really good book. I actually want to go back to that newsletter idea because I'm writing a weekly newsletter. So would you say like you post your newsletter, your weekly newsletter, or whatever newsletter it is, even if it's like a sequence, I guess, and you just add the video on top of it? It's like, hey, if you don't want to read this, this is me going over the newsletter.
exactly. Exactly. And it's just 2 minutes of you going, "Hey, guys, just so you know, here's quick updates for you." And you have awesome editors, so they can do a quick slideshow, basic motion graphic lower third pop in of like, hey, number one, we have this, this, and this. You explain it for 30 seconds on what you're really excited about that newsletter release. Hey, number two, we've got this coming up. It's really helpful because it still shines you. You and Mike can possibly hop on and do it. You can do a side by side Riverside, and that's enough for kind of what you want to put out there. But it's been super helpful for growing communities because they feel more attached to those people who are willing to hop on camera and share.
Okay, very interesting. I might try that out, and maybe just
Cool.
in a Loom style video going over, people rather listen indeed than read and get more like authentic context on things because like the way I write, I do use a lot of AI to actually structure my thoughts, and
Good,
then
good.
sometimes that little authenticity or nuance into certain things gets lost, and then if I would say that out loud again, then that comes out again. Okay, this is really good. I'm gonna try that one for
Yeah,
sure.
cool. I'll take the case study when you get the results.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, how am I gonna implement this? Indeed. Um, okay, so we kind of spoke about like what like kind of content businesses should make, and that going back to like, okay, if they want to take it in house, if they want to have their CEO on camera, I want to get very practical tips on how someone can get more comfortable on camera and basically get better results, right? Because maybe what we should talk about first is like what is the risk of having someone on camera that is not confident, that is not
Mhm.
comfortable? Like what have you seen? What is the side effects of like someone like a deer in the headlights, you know?
Yep.
Like what can happen there?
One thing to be said about video content, especially business video content, is when it comes to showcasing, kind of like being comfortable on camera and sharing things, the beautiful part of it about it is you don't have to be comfortable on camera right away. As you said earlier, it's a skill set and it takes time. And the audience that you're trying to grow on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, wherever you are, they want to follow along in that journey. And so you being uncomfortable on camera in the beginning is totally fine. And in fact, most of the natural, raw, authentic kind of deliveries are the ones that are actually making headway because you're allowing them to step into just sharing raw footage of, hey, this is how we do this. This is how we achieve X, Y, and Z. This is our case study from blah blah blah. It's in this really cool kind of insight style video where you're just kind of giving away the farm. And so I think the cool thing about when it comes to being a content creator or a personal brand, business owner, whoever it is who's on camera, it can be bad. It can grow into something really cool as long as you're willing to put in the work consistently. And that consistency is something that nobody wants to do because we have this short reward theory where we're like, we want to get results now for doing this really hard thing of being in front of camera. And so, yeah, the ones who are just it doesn't matter about how many videos you're actually producing, but that you are consistently doing what you set out to. If
Yeah.
it's once a month, do the once a month. It'll take you a while, but that is what's necessary to grow. If it's once a week, even better. If it's twice a week, even better. The more cadence you can get into just that consistency of practice, that 10,000 hours, practice kind of making this an actual skill, the better your content's gonna be, the better you're gonna work with your editors, which is by far my favorite thing to do. I call up my editors straight out and be like, "Hey, Kate, how are you? That was horrible. Let's do it again." And, I've kind of made video content fun, I think, in that, and that's really cool for me when it comes to working with brands and businesses. That being
Okay.
said, when they hire me to do content and I'm speaking to their editors and I go, like, whoever it is, like, "Hey, Alicia, how are you? You don't know me, but what I was thinking is, like, something up here, so I'm gonna point to it?" And it I mean, quite awkward.
Okay, but if we want to set up people for success, like I do
Yeah.
agree that it's a process and you can bring your audience into that journey basically. But like, let's be fair, like, there's a lot of corporations out there that don't see that that's the way forward, and they wanted things to be right as soon as possible. Um, and for anyone that actually just wants to get comfortable on camera, like, what are the most practical steps they can take right now
Yep.
to even like improve it slightly by tomorrow? Because in the end of the day, it is all about practice, it's all about repetition. So even if you do once a month, you will get better each month. But I always say, like, get in the reps as soon as possible, before you even want to push something out. So
Yeah.
what can people do?
Yeah, the best technique that I've found so far that I've not only done myself, but, that I find very useful for public speaking as well, is called record and review. And, Vin Yang is one of the guys who I kind of learned it from, just a legend when it comes to public speaking. He's an Australian, he's out here. And pretty much it's a three-step process where you record yourself and you do 3 different takes of it. The first one's a visual image review. So, essentially, you're just turning the sound off and you're looking at how you are presenting. Is your body language, your facial expressions, your movement, does it actually, like, really are there any, like, distracting things going on that kind of stand out? Make note of them and remember them for next time. Second thing you wanna do is turn your volume all the way up, but put your phone down. And now you're just, doing an auditory review of, are there any ums? Are there any ahs? Do I speak low in volume? Am I really, really loud? Like, certain things that you wanna just, check for that. And then, the third thing is you want to transcribe your video and check for the leave all the ahs, leave all the ums, leave all the cadence of it, going through, and you just wanna make sure that those filler words aren't distracting from the actual video content itself. So it's three different steps that you can analyze that if you keep doing that enough, eventually you're gonna start training your brain when you're recording to go, "Oh, okay. Let me focus on this next sentence where you can do this, do this, do this." And that's probably one of the, most practical ways to at least coach your own self for video content.
Can't be more practical than that.
No, that's one of the best techniques.
And is there anything else besides that? Like, that is definitely anyone can do that, right?
Yep.
But to be fair, a lot of people don't even dare to rewatch their own shit. Like, they record and hand it over and like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to touch it.
Another thing that I have done in the past, and I guess I still kinda do because I mess up a lot. And you're reading a script and sometimes I'm reading the script for the first time. Like, I actually don't do a check through. I'm on camera and I'm reading it as naturally as possible. And the beauty with video content is you have your paragraphs or you have your one-liners, you have different flows that your editor can always cut into. So what I do is I'll take it a paragraph or a specific line at a time, and I'll redo that another time or a third time if I'm really bad. And then I allow myself to move on. Because even if they can't get enough out of the 3 takes that I have for this specific line or this specific paragraph, I can always go in and I can always do a video. What I always do is a voiceover, input.
Mhm.
So, I'll keep the microphone in the exact same spot. I'll redo the line as they want me to read it, in, like, a specific way, but just allowing yourself to go back and scroll back up on the transcript and read that line again in a dynamic way, something different. On a third take, I'll do something really fun and random, and I'll kind of start improving, but it just allows you to kinda get out of your own element of being a stiff corporate, "I'm gonna read this text," and
Yeah.
that's usually pretty helpful for me.
I did think like a lot of people need that reminder of like, you don't need to do it perfectly. Like, just deliver it again, and the magic of video is that you can cut it. Now, if you do public speaking, no, but you're on video, you know?
Exactly.
So, it's like it's almost like ramping it up. First you read it out loud, then you start putting in some more intonation, and then you go all out and do it. Someone that runs a YouTube agency, creates content for many, many people, I need to remind myself that things can be cut out,
Yeah.
and we can redo it, and it's not final. And I think having that thought that like, okay, it's not final, people should keep that in mind to like let off that stress for sure.
Yeah, the term "good enough" is perfect because good enough is all you really need when it comes to communicating. Like, you're just trying to get the 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 words out there that you're trying to explain. And it doesn't have to be perfect, and nor will it be perfect because you kill yourself trying to do it. But I think the cool part is, like, it goes back to Dan Martell's quote, and he says, "Someone doing 80% of your job is 100% freaking awesome." And so
Yeah.
if you end up hiring out a video presenter to even just, kind of present the information, that's so much better than you struggling as hard as you can just to get the words out, or just to show up, or just to turn on your camera. It's so much better to just have someone there who is giving it a go. And
Yeah.
again, it takes time, but they'll eventually get there.
Okay, cool. So, like, we kind of went over like practical steps for an individual to get stuff done. Even if you have to repeat yourself, it does take reps. And everybody, we spoke about this just before we jumped on the episode with Dan Martell, where he was talking about how to get good himself. And what he was saying is like, are you dabbling or are you going pro? And the pros, what they do is they don't practice for in the game. They practice before the game.
Mhm,
And I think that's also a good reminder. Is like if you're gonna be on camera and you're gonna use video content, and usually for your business is to make money,
mm,
right? So are you practicing in the game or are you gonna be practicing before you do it? And no matter what you do to learn a skill, you have to practice before you do it for real. Because the next thing I want to get into is like how we're doing this all at scale. What are like
mm.
things that you do at Video Rep or what people can do in their own business or for themselves to create content at scale?
Yep. Yeah, you bring up a good point, and the hard part that people don't realize is, like, the practice outside of being in the studio, It goes a long way, and that's I remember training to be public speaking and doing Broadway stuff is one thing in particular, they're like, "Read stories to your stuffed animals." Like, literally, like, in school, like, they'd be like, "Practice your speech to a stuffed animal or a pillow at home," like, things that you can just animate and chat to because you're actually getting the words out, and that's so much better than the internalization of, like, "How am I gonna say this, and how am I gonna" you have to get out there, you have to say it, you have to actually speak it. And so the moment that you try to do that to a family member or to nowadays you can actually use ChatGPT. You can actually say, "Hey, ChatGPT, analyze my speech pattern," and you can give your speech to this person. It costs a little bit, but again, it's something to help you out. And for $20 a month, you have someone there to help you out in training your phonetics. It's actually pretty good. Um, but you want to get into the scalability of it all, right? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so the things that we do at Video Rep to make sure that the content is moving because, a fast game is a good game. You wanna keep that content going, and you really need that content to be up to tempo with the production line. And again, each business has their own content production line. Each business has their own flow with a video might take a month, a video might take 2 days, a video might take 3 months. You just don't know what that business is actually doing and the resources that they have available. When it comes internal though, we have a 24 to 48-hour turnaround for each of our service, so for script writing, presenting, and editing, where we have those processes in play where as it comes through the funnel, we're capturing the right information that we need from the client, and we're getting those people ahead of time, advanced, and saying, "Okay, our turnaround time for this, obviously 24 to 48 hours." And they're putting in, again, comes back to good enough. The content that they're putting out, again, they're trained to do so. So the video reps that they put in there is now on brand in the tone, the style, the energy, and anything that we miss can be done in the edit, as in like a voiceover insert or some sort of additional line, or if we phonetically messed up something. The whole point is to get that content out there in the most authentic and organic way possible. Unfortunately, you have the script, so it's ready to go.
Mm. And so how can businesses do it themselves at scale? Like, top of my mind is, for example, batch production and stuff like that.
Yep.
Um, that's probably the most obvious. There's some risk to it, that it's slower iterations, right? Because if you do one video, you can then, like you mentioned with the tips you gave, you can reiterate and see what went wrong and what went right. Um, Besides batch recording and stuff like that, what is the good enough, I suppose, is what you mentioned. Is there anything else that people can scale effectively?
Yeah. I think the batch recording is probably the best approach to scalable content because the CEO doesn't have time
Mm,
to hop in front of a camera each day. If you have the internal studio and they have that space built out that they can hop on and do a 30-minute interview or even a 10-minute, kind of area, then yeah, for sure, you can definitely do that. However, nowadays, I think what's helpful for brands and businesses is to have your it's to optimize your sales calls or your studio setup so that you're actually taking bites out of that sales meeting, and that begins your content. Because very similar to They Ask You Answer is all the questions that your audience has, that your sales calls have, that your internal team has. By answering those questions, even on a sales call, it's content. It's helpful things that you can actually put out there where people now are educated about your brand and business and can move forward. Other than that, I think the batch recording is extremely popular. Alex Hormozy did that. He did about a 2-hour setup, I think. I think it was 2 hours a month of content that he would build out, and fact check me on this because he would actually sit down and do long forms on one of the hours, and then he'd do his shorts content attached to the other ones. Am
mm.
I accurate there?
I don't know, but like the system is indeed like batch it so that you can create like a month's worth in just a matter of hours.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
Right. And the last thing that I want to get into is the actually something you mentioned in the beginning is about AI, the rise of AI and video content. Like,
Mm.
where is it now and where do you see it going?
So where it is right now, I'm really excited about it because I was privy to one of the he's an AI creative director. So he actually uses AI for think about like Coca-Cola hires him as like uh, an intrinsic AI developer, and so he he knows all the technological advancements. He's a part of some really excellent designs. He's getting awards for AI design creative, and it's pretty spectacular. And I was like, how is the AI avatar thing coming along? Like Gary Vee saying 5 years out. Now he's saying three. Other people, are saying it's already here. And the stats are interesting because after some deep research, everybody's trying AI avatars as a way to simplify their content, much like they do with ChatGPT for like, blog creation or anything like that. And what they're finding is I think it's 93% of them end up losing massive trust value in their audience and they go back to like hiring or internalizing their content creation. And so that's this really weird wave where, like, it's not ready quite yet, but it's to the point where for, like, short form, like ads, there's enough retention editing that you can do to cover up the fact that, the mouth is moving and all that. And I asked him, this creative guy, so how far along is it? Have you tested? And he sent me an AI avatar of himself, and it was real good. It was a really good one, and I was like, That's definitely," you can tell, the facial movements, it's probably where HeyGen will be in about a year. Um, but it's pretty good. I was
Brilliant.
quite impressed.
But then I think the biggest factors will be cost and scalability in it. Like scalability as AI is a thing, but technology needs to be able to adapt to it as well. Like we're
Right.
literally talking about computer servers and stuff like that.
Yep.
To be able to produce that is very heavy. Um,
And I think there's probably gonna be some sort of because of all the deep fake technology and all of the things that are being creative and even there's celebrity stuff going on, I think there's gonna be some sort of registration or some sort of legal entity that kind of registers that AI or like saying this is AI. So for example, on TV commercials back in the States, you have to put, actor this is an actor or something like that. There's legal things attached to that. And so I think that there might be like some sort of like this is AI generated or some sort of notion there. But additionally, you have actual actors, like big actors, really scrounging for their rights to say, you're using my likeness, you're using my voice, you're using my technology, and I didn't give you permission.
I do like YouTube and a lot of social media platforms are now requiring you to mention if it's AI or not, and they can dig deep into the metadata and see if it's actually altered or not. Um, I do know there are a few actors that are actively turning themselves into an AI version,
Right.
including what's his name, Attenborough.
David
Atta-
Attenborough?
yeah,
Yeah.
at least his voice, and that's
Mhm.
obviously slightly easier, but he's actively behind that, and I think there was either Denzel Washington or George Clooney that are actively doing it because they see the future of that as well. They're not gonna be around forever. Um,
Interesting. Okay.
maybe not them exactly, but and this is also we'll have to see how we go, right?
Yeah.
But what I want to get back to is what you said is like people, it's 93% go lose the trust. So they go back to normal stuff. But what are the things that we can continue doing to keep that on authenticity in this world of AI? I had a conversation with a CMO guy who actually you recommended him. It was a, what was his name?
Oh,
Remember?
Andrew.
Andrew, yeah. I
Yeah.
had long, long conversations with Andrew. Like
Yeah.
we hit it off so well.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Andrew's a legend.
he is. And I came up with this thing that the longevity in the world of AI is your personal brand.
Mm.
So the only way to stand out is really being that authentic self.
I think that's a really good point because when it comes to video content, video marketing by itself doesn't do it. There's so many more facets of marketing that need to be attached to it, so much more social listening and thoughts. Video isn't the only way, but it's a really strong way to at least get that out there. And so when it comes to personal branding and, kind of that is the only thing to protect yourself around the future of, kind of this AI trend and thought leadership and all of that. And you can AI clone yourself, that will be available one day and it'll be super helpful. But there comes to there's a massive turning point right now, and it has been for years, is the trust factor. Is people real people wanna buy from real people. There's a reason why people follow in brands and businesses. It's because it makes them feel things. It makes us feel human. And so I think that there's always gonna be something there, whether you are a personal brand or a content creator or a media brand themselves, like creating you own this avenue that you're choosing to go down. And I think that's really important when it comes to essentially creating a following, creating a community is because you stand for something and that's something people can rally around.
Yeah. So we can kind of agree that like AI won't take over the world just yet, especially in the video world. But like, what are some of the AI tools, or where do you use AI in the whole process of creating, scaling through video?
Good question. Definitely content creation, in terms of script writing, blogging. That's something that I'm really want to get deeper into because I see it. I see it. There's also an element of obviously idea generation. That's always just kind of at the beginning. But there's a really interesting point of distribution that I find fascinating with AI. I think that there's a whole level when it comes to video content creation where you've got your strategy, ideation, script writing, presenting, editing, distribution. Out of that full funnel of it all, there's even an optimization in there somewhere at the end. I think AI can be covered across the board. But what really makes it human is that middle part, the presenting.
Mhm.
So if there's a way that you can work on your content creation, that all of your processes are set in stone, and the only thing that you get in there is you just got to record raw footage, then like the rest, like I'm there's something there in that element that I feel is so natural for a personal brand or a content creator, and it doesn't apply to everyone. This is just where I'm purely like business content creation when it comes to something like a they ask you answer strategy, something like a blog or a vlog or something.
Yeah, I think we as a world transitioned into like, oh, you're using AI, that's so fake. But now it's
Mm.
like you. you have to, because else you would fall behind. And people are also accept it a lot more in that content creation part, in that ideation part. Like what I mentioned is like I use AI as a human on steroids, where it is like I have multiple 2-hour podcasts here that I need to understand better and take some ideas and content out of. I need to attach that to what I just did on a call with someone else. Here's another sales call and a Q&A and stuff like that. Combine this into a structure so I can present that, so I can provide as much value as possible. If a human would have to do that, go over maybe 10 hours of content, it would literally take more than a day. AI can do this in like a minute and
Exactly.
spit out a structure. And so it's just, you really need to use it in the right way that it you still find that authenticity,
Yeah.
but just use it to your advantage.
Exactly right. And if you compare that AI, the new fields of it all, to like, the automobile, replacing horse carriages. That's a
Yeah,
beautiful analogy that makes a lot of sense. And I had a friend who was a teacher who was saying that the school was vouching to get rid of AI. All the parents were rallying around to say, we don't want AI, we don't want to use it. Um, and they're trying to like stop the kids from using it in their tests.
it's
Whereas
not possible.
exactly. And for him, he's like, shouldn't we as educators be educating them instead? Saying like, how do we use AI safely? How can we actually benefit our writing in a more natural way? Because the wave is it's not going anywhere. It's definitely on its way. And it's meant to help you. It's meant to assist. Nobody really has the advantage when it comes to AI generation. Everybody now can be a part of it. And so, yeah, I take a little bit more of an optimistic approach to it in helping content creation specifically. Yeah, even as a video presenter where my job is gonna be replaced by AI avatars, I'm stoked. I'm actually really excited, because I think there'll always be a human element to it.
But then your experience as a video presenter will always come in place to like, you know how you still have to correct AI and stuff like that?
Yep,
A lot of people don't know how to correct because they have no idea what is correct or what is the right direction to go to. So even if you create an AI avatar and a video, then you as a presenter will still have that experience. It's like, no, I kind of want you to like use that intonation slightly different here, and then the outcome should be more dramatic and stuff like that. So
yep,
that experience will always be there. Same as a script writer, like people are like, "Ah, you're a scriptwriter. I don't want you to be using AI." It's like, no, that's not the point. The point is that like, how can they leverage it to deliver faster, better, and just like get you a better outcome with their experience, right?
yeah,
Than someone without experience saying, "Write me a YouTube script on the 10 best ways on to get better on camera." No,
yep,
it's like you're gonna dump all your thoughts on it. You're gonna dump all your ideas on this, and then once you have an outcome, you go like, "Okay, let's change this. Can you use this case study instead, or like this part of my experience here and there?"
yeah.
And that's how it goes.
It's gonna be fascinating, man, and I've actually gotten hit up by about 20 different companies to be the AI avatar because they've said, we are hiring tons of AI avatars, that's standard, but there's been about 3 of them who are like, "We want a deep review avatar," like, we're doing, like, the high quality kind of, like, adjustments that you're talking about, and unfortunately, I'm just not interested at the moment to do that kinda stuff, but I am interested at the same time. I'm, like, curiously like,
It's
"Oh,
like, how do
have
you
you ever"
charge for that? Yeah.
well, that's the thing is, like, they're only offering a kind of a one-off fee,
uh,
whereas, a
licensing.
lot of that's the issue with the likeness is, like, it should be more. It should be these artists are giving away their likeness and image, and I actually have a couple spokesperson friends who I've seen them on some of these big companies, and I go, "Did you know that this was going down?" And, one of them didn't, and he's like, I signed away the terms."
Right. Yeah.
That's bad. Yeah.
That's crazy. I really enjoyed this one, and thank you so much for joining us. If people still don't have an idea of how to exactly improve yourself or what are the next steps for their business, where can they find you? And what can they expect from you?
Yep, yeah, just hit me up at eric@videorep.co. Reach out, let me know what your pain points are, happy to share any useful information I can. There's a lot of strategies that you can do, obviously, to, like, kind of work on yourself and when it comes to review, when it comes to making sure that you're in line. Essentially, it's just going to be practice. It's going to be getting those reps out. Um, so yeah,
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Eric, and hopefully see you soon again.
thanks for the time. See you guys.